Today on the UOFanatic Podcast, we will cover the latest Universal Orlando news, and then I will share my experience from my recent trip to Universal Orlando, including the Legacy Parks and Epic Universe.
Hello? This is Jonah Jameson. Roger, over. Is this thing on?
My name is Angus, and I am a UOFanatic. Welcome to the show. Please be sure to like, subscribe, and leave a review on your platform of choice by searching UOFanatic, also on YouTube. Follow along and continue the conversation at UOFanaticPod on Twitter as well. Even HHN adjacent means we need to trigger the horn. Like I said, this is more HHN adjacent, but a tweet from Michael Aiello on Twitter I felt was worth sharing. To put this tweet into context, you have to understand that this response was after the WWE announcement. It had terminated the contracts of a lot of current wrestlers, and among those terminations were the remaining wrestlers that were part of the Wyatt Six. Why the Wyatt Six mattered, and or its unseen potential. Recentered wrestling around character and atmosphere, not just in ring performance. Extended Bray Wyatt's legacy of layered psychological storytelling. Used mystery and symbolism to engage the audience actively. Proved slow burn narratives can work in modern WWE. Blended horror elements with wrestling in a more grounded cinematic way. Created a distinct visual and tonal identity that stood apart from the roster. Elevated faction unity over individual spotlight. Open space for performance driven by presence and character work. Showed that less screen time can increase perceived importance. Encouraged fan interpretation instead of over-explaining storylines. Demonstrated the value of long-term creative commitment. Is an example of unrealized potential due to early cancellation. And Mike finished up with, obviously, I love this faction and what it represented and what it could have continued to contribute. Now, the reason I wanted to share this with you, because I feel it represents the passion and drive of the people behind the Halloween Horror Nights event, and it's that passion that makes this event so special. So while we're on the HHN topic, might as well mention we had they called it a limited release, but as far as I know, it's still available. Halloween Horror Nights collectible acrylic figures debut, and they started on May 1st, and they started with Jack the Clown and Dr. Oddfellow. And now for some other news. The horror makeup show is under refurbishment by the time this comes out. UO annual pass holders, I think it was Instagram posted. We want you to be the first to know horror makeup show will temporarily close starting May 12th with a reimagined show coming later this year. The updated show will showcase a mix of classic and modern horror properties along with shockingly fun surprises, all while staying true to the comedic and irreverent spirit that guests know and love. Cautiously optimistic is about the best I can give you on that one. But, this is actually going to come up a little bit during my trip report as well. The Lost Continent at Universal Islands of Adventure in the coming months, venues and experiences within Lost Continent will permanently close in phases to make way for a new themed area. This will include the closure of Mythos Restaurant in 2027. Yep, that's a pretty big deal. We all knew it was coming, but now it is starting. Thunder Falls Terrace at Universal Islands of Adventure will close this summer and transform into an all-new dining concept that will become the new signature full restaurant in Universal Islands of Adventure. The rethemed dining location will debut in 2027. So this is their plan to make up for the fact that Mythos will be closing at that time. So I would imagine this will open pretty soon, within the same time frame that Mythos is closing. Fat Ones Hot Dogs and Italian Ice at Universal CityWalk, founded by NSYNC member Joey Fatone and his manager Joe Mulvihill, Fat Ones Hot Dogs and Italian Ice is coming to Universal CityWalk, featuring a variety of creative, flavor-packed hot dogs, Italian ices, and more for guests to enjoy. It will take the place of Hot Dog Hall of Fame, which will close in July to make way for the new venue. All right, that's going to do it for the news. So now let's get into the trip report. When you have a short trip like this, it only makes sense to get there as early as possible. So I booked a 6:10 a.m. JetBlue flight out of Logan Airport, woke up at 4 a.m. and was out the door at 4:30 with a very talkative Uber driver. She was very nice, but come on, man, it's 4:30 in the morning, and I haven't even had coffee yet. She dropped me off at arrivals to be sneaky and not have to go to the designated rideshare lot, which is fine by me because that lot is very inconvenient for us passengers as well. The flight boarded on time and arrived at MCO before 9 a.m. It was a great, uneventful flight, which is the best kind of flight. I had no check bag, so I was getting my two-stop Uber ride arranged as I was exiting the security area, and like a boss, my driver was arriving just as I was heading out the door. Stop one was a 7-Eleven just around the corner from Stella Nova, so I could pick up beer and water. And then stop two was the Stella Nova Resort. And I was there at 9:41 a.m. because I checked my photo when I entered the lobby. The Universal Stella Nova Resort, like all on-site hotels, is a Lowe's-operated hotel. It is a space-inspired hotel themed around galaxies, cosmic exploration, and the infinite vastness of the universe. It officially opened in January 25 and adds 750 guest rooms to Universal Orlando's hotel lineup. It has a sister resort, Terra Luna, that has the same feel and layout. It sits adjacent to Universal Epic Universe, connected by a walking path and complimentary shuttles. And it also offers easy shuttle access to Universal Studios Florida, Islands of Adventure, Volcano Bay, and CityWalk. Check-in was a breeze, and the team member was particularly welcoming. I should have gotten her name and given her a UO fist bump. Honestly, my bad on that, because she was enjoying her job and was going above and beyond. She even gave me a breakfast voucher since she was disappointed my room wasn't ready. She was also assuring me that even though I didn't have any room requests, she was getting me into a great spot for the hotel, and she assured me that they would get that room ready for me as soon as possible. I took that voucher and got myself some breakfast. Here's the funny part, or the dumb part. You can be the judge. As soon as I ordered my breakfast, I handed the cashier my credit card, and yes, I still have my free breakfast voucher to this day, expired and all. I am not always paying the attention I should, right? The Cosmos Café is a three-meal quick-service restaurant offering American classics like burgers, paninis, fried chicken, and pastas. Breakfast is from 7 a.m. to 11, lunch is from 11:30 a.m. till 5 p.m., and dinner from 5 p.m. to 10 p.m. I ordered myself a biscuit sandwich, which cost $12 and had applewood, smoked bacon, egg, and cheddar cheese. It also included a side of breakfast potatoes. I wish I could tell you how good this was, but it was terrible, if I'm being honest. The biscuit was just falling apart, and the entire thing was just dry and barely edible. I could have had this for free, but felt a little worse knowing that I actually paid for it. I hadn't received the text yet after breakfast, so I started thinking maybe I shouldn't wait for my room to be ready. I decided to check my bags with Bell Services, but I was surprised to learn that he wouldn't accept my beer to hold. He wasn't nasty about it or anything. In fact, he said, let me call and see if I can take that. He seemed new, but I was expecting him to return from that call and say no problem, but it was the opposite. In all my years of visiting, I've never had this issue before. I don't know if this is a new policy or my previous visits, I just had things in bags, so it wasn't so obvious that it was alcohol. Anyway, this did throw me off a little, and it wasn't the team member's fault. He was just doing his job. But this did start to throw a wrench in my plans, depending on how long it would take, right? So it was now about 11 a.m., and I figured let's give them another hour on my room before I take any drastic actions. So now with the Galaxy Bar and Galaxy Grill being open, I could definitely find a way to distract myself for an hour. So a couple of Captain and Cokes later, that welcome to text message did arrive. I went by the front desk to get new keys, and they weren't kidding about trying to put me in a perfect spot. It was the ninth floor, a few steps from the elevator, and facing Epic Universe, room 9056. It was everything anyone could have wanted at a value resort. I dropped my things and it was time to get over to the Legacy Parks. So just to the right of the lobby is where you'll find the bus pickup. Here you can get a bus to CityWalk and the Legacy Parks, Volcano Bay, and Epic Universe. As I was exiting the lobby, I noticed the CityWalk bus pulling away, and before I could feel defeated, I saw two more buses pulling into the lot. And one of those was the Epic, and the other bus to CityWalk. So the bus ride lasted about 15 minutes. It's not the distance that is a problem, but a couple of the lights outside of the dedicated bus lane can be really long depending on your timing. I think 15 minutes will be the average, or at least it has been for me so far, but I could see 20 minutes under the absolute unluckiest of light conditions. Security was a breeze as usual, no surprises there. They definitely have all that figured out now. So now as I'm entering CityWalk, I decided my first stop would be to head right over to the Legacy store. I really enjoyed this store in the past and couldn't wait to see it again. And if I'm being completely honest, I was slightly underwhelmed as I entered and began looking around. The previous version was definitely more of a vibe. As I started to scan about the entire store, I did notice there's some pretty neat photo ops and the like, and I started to see a lot of Jaws merch, which is what I really enjoy. I started feeling better about it immediately, but I would say that if you love the previous store, don't go in expecting its return and you'll be fine. Just manage your expectations. I took several photos of the Jaws merch so I could send it to my family so they could pick out a souvenir, and they all had something they wanted. I even picked up a new Jaws lanyard for myself. Not what I was expecting, but okay, off to a good start. Now I wanted to hit up studios. So if you remember my plan from the pre-trip report, I wanted to start by focusing on shows and entertainment up until when my 4 p.m. Express Pass perk kicks in. First up was the Born Stuntacular. We covered this in detail in episode 6, so let me just give you a quick summary just in case you haven't listened to that episode yet. The Born Stuntacular is an action stunt show that uses a 3,640 square foot LED screen, projection mapping, moving set pieces, and live stunt performers to create the illusion that Jason Bourne is leaping between real and digital environments. The story follows Bourne as he is pursued across Dubai, Tangier, and Virginia. It features rooftop chases, motorcycle pursuits, fistfights, gunfire, and explosions. Like I said, be sure to check out my previous episode if you want more information on this breathtaking stunt show. As always, I enjoyed it very much. I used my usual method of just hanging back, and it got me a seat in the last row about the middle, which in my opinion is the perfect spot. After Bourne, I looked up showtimes for the Blues Brothers, and it was about 20 minutes until it starts, so I made my way over to the pop-up bar by the Lagoon and Transformers. It is no Finnegan's, but for now it will have to do. Got myself a Guinness and made my way to Delancey Street a few minutes before the show started. The show is a live musical street performance inspired by the classic Blues Brothers film and Saturday Night Live characters. Jake and Elwood perform in their signature black suits and sunglasses. They're joined by Mabel, the waitress, and Jazz, the saxophone player, who add their powerhouse vocals and live instrumentation. It's designed as a street party rather than a traditional stage show. The show starts with Jazz warming up the audience, and momentarily Mabel joins in, and before you know it, the Bluesmobile is pulling down the street where Jake and Elwood exit and jump up on the stage. In episode 7, I know I mentioned this would be part of my perfect Universal day, and I did mean it. So entertaining, and I hope it never leaves. Timing was working out pretty well. The mobile app was showing a horror makeup show starting in about 25 minutes. So I made my way over there and at first looked at all the props in the lobby before the theater was open for the next show. This was the first time in a long time that the show just didn't click for me. The two performers were fine, nothing wrong with them, but sometimes the audience plays a major factor or as a negative, like it was in this case. It wasn't that the crowd was terrible or anything, but if you had seen the show before, there's always some important roles played by the audience. There's a person who they need medical assistance from. There's a child picked out to be sort of the antagonist of the show. And lastly, an audience member who doesn't know it yet, but is going to carry the show. And that person, by the way, in this case was wonderful. The issues really started with the first scene where the medical assistant was being sought. That person was just horrified by all of it, so that portion just really fell flat. And then the child they were talking to was so shy that the whole storyline didn't even play out. Anyway, Don't feel sorry for me. I love the show, and even at its worst, it was still entertaining. And as we mentioned in the news, the show will be changing. I hope they don't screw it up, but then again, maybe they can find a storyline that will work and not depend on the audience as much. Trust me, I love this show. It's just not that day. Using the mobile app, I found that Celestina Warbeck and Diagon Alley would be performing soon, so I got myself over to the hopping pot and ordered a cider with a double shot of fire whiskey. It's so refreshing and a little bit potent. With that, I made myself over to find a good spot in front of the little stage, and thankfully, Celestina did not disappoint. Celestina Warbeck never disappoints. Celestina Warbeck and the Banshees is a lively, jazz-inspired musical show in Diagon Alley where Molly Weasley's favorite singer performs the originals, Wizarding World songs with her trio of Banshee backup vocalists. Runs about 12 minutes, and it alternates throughout the day with Tales of Beetle the Bard on the Carket Market stage. What makes this show so special? It is the deep Harry Potter lore in that Celestina is directly referenced in the books as Molly Weasley's favorite singer. It has original music created specifically for the show, and it is a short, high-energy show that makes it easy to fit into any Diagon Alley visit. I think it was about this time that I realized the Lagoon show wasn't happening today. I was really hoping to get to see it. It's been too long. But now I had no reason to rush to Islands and to get back in time for that show. So anyway, now we are breaking the 4 p.m. mark, and I have Express Pass thanks to my premier annual pass. With that, Gringotts was like right there. I have seen the bank lobby portion of this queue a lot of times now in the past 13 or so years, and it feels just as majestic as the first time. I will never not be impressed by that huge chandelier. Harry Potter and the Escape from Gringotts is a hybrid dock ride coaster that takes you deep into the vaults of Gringotts Bank, combining 3D screens, motion simulation, and roller coaster launches as you try to escape Voldemort, Bellatrix, trolls, and snakes. Of all the major Harry Potter attractions, I think this is my least favorite, but it's still a must-do attraction that is pretty high up on the overall attractions list, just not one of my favorites. After that, I took the Hogwarts Express over to Islands of Adventure to continue getting the most of my Express Pass benefit. This is a themed train attraction that physically transports guests between the two Wizarding World lands. It's not a simulator or a coaster. The train rarely moves between parks, but the windows and cabin doors transform the journey into a cinematic experience. A park-to-park ticket is required to ride, which is a brilliant business decision if you think about it. Beyond a doubt, my two favorite legacy park attractions are Hagrid's Motorbike Adventure and Velocicoaster. Thanks to Hagrid's finally getting Express, this is why I have a premium annual pass. Riding them both back to back is icing on the cake. Hagrid's Magical Creatures Motorbike Adventure is a high-speed story coaster through the Forbidden Forest, combining multiple launches, animatronics, and immersive theming. The ride reaches 50 miles per hour, features 7 launches, a vertical spike, a backwards section, and a free fall drop track. Along the way, you'll see Fluffy, flash-netted Scroots, Cornish pixies, Thestrals, and a pair of unicorns. I had so much fun. It's just so exciting ride after ride, and this time was no different. Velocicoaster, love of my life. Less theme in comparison to Hagrid's, but even more thrill and excitement. Velocicoaster is a launched steel coaster at Universal's Islands of Adventure, manufactured by Intamin and themed to the Jurassic World Raptor paddock. It features 2 LSM launches, a 155-foot top hat, a 140-foot drop, a 70-mile-per-hour top speed, and 4 inversions, including a 0G stall and a signature Mosasaurus roll over the lagoon. Universal officially markets it as the apex predator of roller coasters, and I've mentioned before, and I'm saying it again, that Mosasaurus roll is everything to me. My next hit was meant to be Spider-Man, but when passing by Skull Island, Random Kong, I said, why the hell wouldn't I? Kong is a thrill attraction at Universal's Islands of Adventure, themed around an expedition into the mysterious, creature-filled Skull Island. It blends motion simulation and large-scale practical environments to immerse riders in a hostile jungle world. It's not in my top 10, but I really do enjoy it, particularly at night, as long as the attraction isn't in B mode, meaning that the attraction uses the outdoor portion of the track. And last but not least, The Amazing Adventures of Spider-Man. I covered this attraction in depth in episode 2, but for a refresher, the attraction is a fast-paced 3D motion simulation dock ride where you join Spider-Man to battle the sinister syndicate across New York City. blending moving vehicles, physical sets, and high-definition 3D projections into one seamless comic book style chase. If Disney and Universal never make a deal for the use of Marvel, it would be A-okay with me. What an attraction this is still to this day. So that was the rides that I wanted to make sure I hit that day. And of course, on my way out, I did have to check out the new Lost Emporium, which, as we talked in recent news, has replaced the All Hallows Eve boutique. Has a totally different vibe now. It's so open and bright, but I thought it was an improvement. I love the old space, but this new space has to be twice, if not three times the size. Probably the only complaint from the old space was there was just so little area to try and get to move by other guests around at the shop. This is definitely a win. So while the Lagoon show wasn't happening this evening, I still did opt to head back to studios, mainly because I had since gotten a text from my son that he wanted something from the film vault. So while getting that, you know me all too well, I decided to grab a Carnegie sandwich from the Today Café as well. I will soon be heading to the NBC Grill, and in my head couldn't come up with anything I felt like eating there. So I'll spare you the details. This is a place I've talked enough about the past few episodes. I arrived at the NBC Sports Grill and Brew just before 7 p.m. Got myself a seat and a friendly couple of bartenders. I asked for the Celtics game on the TV, and just as I mentioned in the past, they were happy to accommodate me. I had a few beers on tap. Can't remember what at this point, but I tried a few different ones. The beers were good, the Celtics were not, and I think I'm just going to leave it at that. So after that game, made my way back to Stella Nova, grabbed a pepperoni pizza from the grab-and-go section, mostly because I must hate myself. What is it about pizza in Orlando? Why can't they do it? And why don't I learn? All right, so the next morning was my day at Epic Universe. Walking from Stella Nova is roughly 6 minutes at my pace to the crosswalk. It's a straight shot out of the parking lot. This is a big intersection, but the walking light allows for plenty of time to get across safely. Approaching that Kronos portal is as good as the icons at the Legacy Parks, maybe even more so by its unusual Galaxian nature. This should be how you enter the park for the first time. I'm not saying don't stay at Grand Helios for your first time, but this is something you will miss out on. It's definitely a memorable moment. Since this was my third visit, I didn't feel the need to hang out and vibe in Celestial Park. I was on a mission. I had Express Pass, but I had all the intentions in the world to ride Ministry of Magic twice. And after checking the app, it was not delayed. And it showed a 90-minute wait. I wasn't right on time here. It was about 15 minutes after early entry, but still early enough to beat the real crowds. But late for a rope drop. But 90 minutes was okay with me. The reveal through the portal to mid-century France is really impressive. But I didn't focus yet on my surroundings. I had to get to the Ministry. Approaching the Cirque tent and heading left led me right to the attraction. I didn't falter as I approached the queue and avoided the Express Pass queue with determination. This entire attraction will have a deep dive here someday because honestly, I don't have the words to describe just how grand and beautiful this queue is. What I can tell you is not only did I wait 90 minutes, but the attraction broke down for a brief period and I waited all of 2 hours without even flinching. There's just so much to see here. Even being alone without anyone to speak with, the wait was effortless. That's how good this queue is. I won't leave you completely hanging. I just think this is going to be its own episode in the near future. But for the queue, I will say the queue is designed as a narrative pre-show, moving guests through the Ministry's public spaces, archives, offices, and Aurora facilities. It uses moving maps, enchanted ceilings, animated portraits, magical machinery, and character-specific props to build the story. You won't believe the scale of the Grand Atrium, no matter how prepared you think you are. You won't believe it. You're arriving at the Ministry on the day Dolores Umbridge is about to stand trial. Harry, Ron, and Hermione are present as witnesses. The trial quickly goes wrong. Umbridge attempts to escape, and Death Eaters and magical creatures invade the Ministry. Your lift becomes part of the chase as you descend through multiple departments. The lift of your ride vehicle is a 14-passenger elevator, a hybrid between a dark ride vehicle and a robotic motion base. Each lift is mounted on a robotic arm, but the arm is attached to a track, not free moving. The arm provides multi-axe motion, tilt, pitch, spin, rise, and drop. And the track provides forward movement through the large physical sets. Amazing. Can't say enough good things about the entire experience. Like I said, I waited 2 hours while knowing I had an express pass and didn't doubt the decision for a moment during the wait. I think I'm going to break the timeline here since I mentioned I would come back. Rather than jumping back to this later, I did in fact come back later in the day to ride again with the express pass. The end result was the same. I'm just so impressed by the attraction. As I exited, and early in the day, I was having trouble finding times in the app for Le Cirque Arcanu, mostly now because I realized the show was having technical difficulties. Approaching the 10 facade, I could see the sign said delayed. I would continue to keep checking the app and checking back later in the day, but after a false hope in the afternoon of briefly showing an upcoming showtime, it did return back to delay. I did want to try I can't pronounce this. I'm going to give it a shot. The Berber crepe at Café La de la Serene. The crepe it's butterbeer. It's a butterbeer crepe, everybody. Crepe is shortbread cookie butter, Bavarian cream, butterbeer cream, strawberries, butterbeer drizzle, and a shortbread cookie garnish. This was every bit as delicious as it looks in the pictures, and that's saying a lot. I will absolutely have this again, and it's light and filling. This place may be my today cafe of Epic Universe. I washed that crepe down with an awe currant saison or a black currant saison. Um, a saison is French for season, so it's a traditional Belgian beer style that began in the Wallonia region. It was historically brewed in the cooler months and stored for drinking during the summer farm season, which is why it is often called a farmhouse ale. On my second trip to the land later in the day, I additionally made my way to Bar Moonshine and got myself a Lobe Blaster, which is a potent mix of moonshine, limoncello, absinthe, lemon juice, club soda, and simple syrup, garnished with a rosemary sprig and layered with an emulsion verte. I don't know what a lot of that means, but it was delicious and strong. I used drink time to meander through the streets of Paris, taking photos and enjoying the ambiance. And now we are moving on to Dartmoor. Dartmoor during the day is a 9 out of 10, but Dartmoor at night is 10 out of 10. Fortunately, I did both. I started first with Monsters Unchained, the Frankenstein experiment, without Express again. But this is the other attraction I had a goal of riding at least twice. Also, I figured the first time should be without it, so I get to crawl the entire queue. The queue for Monsters Unchained, the Frankenstein experiment, is a long atmospheric walkthrough of Frankenstein Manor, moving from gothic exteriors into torchlit halls, artifact-filled laboratories, and two major pre-shows where Dr. Frankenstein introduces her experiment to control Dracula. By the way, that second pre-show was not running at the time, and I believe I've seen online it still isn't yet. I'm sure it'll get fixed, but at the moment, it is one of the troubled points of the attraction. The attraction is a high-intensity, motion-based dark ride in Epic Universe's Dark Universe land, where Dr. Victoria Frankenstein's attempt to control the classic Universal monsters fails, unleashing Dracula, the Wolfman, the Mummy, the creature from the Black Lagoon, and more as you try to escape her underground lab. This is my favorite attraction at Epic, and possibly my favorite overall attraction. When comparing this to Ministry of Magic, I think I give Monsters a 10 for attraction and a 9 for the queue. And for Ministry, I just flip it. I give them a 9 for the attraction and a 10 for the queue. The other amazing feature of Monsters is how efficient it is. The reason this attraction rarely has a long wait is because it's so efficient. They combined the Popeye circular platform with Forbidden Journey's moving walkway, and I can't believe all attractions don't consider this sort of loading. So many guests are being loaded into these small ride vehicles at a time. It's just absolutely amazing and super efficient. I did return in the evening, as I said, for a second ride around dusk and to really take a long look at the land, of course, the Burning Blade Tavern. These first two attractions, being able to ride them twice would have been a success for me as far as I was concerned. Curse of the Werewolf is a spinning family thrill coaster in Epic Universes, where you're welcomed by Maliva of the Guild of Mystics, warned that you bear the werewolf's mark, and then launched into a frantic, twisting escape through the dark forest as glowing eyes and werewolves close in. It is a spinning coaster that reaches 37 miles per hour and lasts over 2 minutes, sending riders through a dark forest filled with werewolves. I really enjoyed this attraction. It's not a fast loader, so even Express isn't super efficient, but it's just a good, fun ride that most people can enjoy. It's a great entry level coaster, and the spinning wasn't excessive, but also provides a lot of re-rideability. After completing the first round of 2 lands, I stepped into Celestial Park and went over to the Oak Star Tavern for lunch. I got myself the chopped salad, which included romaine lettuce, tomato, cucumber, barbecue bacon, feta, and chipotle ranch. It was a really fresh tasting salad, and it's something I enjoy midday when the heat starts to get to me. I figure this is a good hydration method. I also stepped up to the Plastic Owl for a smoky scholar, Old Forester Oak and Star Private Barrel, the Bitter Truth chocolate bitters, toasted marshmallow syrup, and campfire smoke. The Plastic Owl is inside the Oak and Star Tavern, so very convenient. I did not see this drink in the menu currently, so hopefully it isn't going away because I really enjoyed it. After lunch, I headed into Super Nintendo World. It still appears to be the crowd favorite by the numbers. While it might be last for me, I still have to say that reveal from the second floor is absolutely incredible. The kinetic energy is buzzing here. In this land, I made no hesitation and used my Express Pass. Mario Kart Bowser's Challenge is an interactive AR dock ride where you don special goggles, steer through iconic Mario Kart courses, collect coins, and throw shells to help Team Mario defeat Bowser for the Golden Cup. It blends physical sets, projection mapping, and augmented reality to make you feel like you're inside the game with multiple possible outcomes each time you ride. I'm going to give you a tip. You aim with your eyes, but you need to turn your head to do it. I know it doesn't sound like much of a tip, but once you've got it, you got it. This ride gets mixed reviews by theme park fans, but the typical guests love everything about this and the land. I also don't understand why it gets that hate. I personally think it's really enjoyable. Yoshi's Adventure is a gentle, family friendly Omni Mover ride where you board a colorful Yoshi and travel through the Mushroom Kingdom, searching for glowing eggs while enjoying scenic views of Super Nintendo World. Slow paced, interactive, and it's designed for all ages. It's a traditional dock ride like you think of in Fantasyland, something the entire family can enjoy, even your littles. Minecart Madness was down for the day, unfortunately. This attraction is a lot of fun, and I was a little disappointed, but I had accomplished so much by this time I got here that the disappointment was manageable. There was a sign out in the path where the entrance to the mini land is, and I saw someone coming out of there with that Donkey Kong float, so I knew I wanted to try. So I went beyond the sign. I had meant to get this both previous trips, and I could at least make this happen. It's called the DK Crush Float Tropical Banana Flavor. I got myself the one with the souvenir DK cup because I needed it. The drink is a banana pineapple soft serve float with pineapple soda, a waffle bowl, sprinkles, toffee pieces, and caramel popcorn. I wasn't disappointed. This was absolutely delicious. The only thing I think they could improve on is adding some rum. I find Super Nintendo World a little overwhelming still. It's the one land I definitely need to explore more, but the crowds are intense and not sure when I'll get that opportunity, but I'll keep trying. Last but not least, entering the Isle of Berk is on the same level of Super Nintendo World, but without the chaos surrounding it. It's a much more toned down feeling and it's very picturesque. The timing as I entered the land was intentional, and I was focused on the show The Untrainable Dragon, a 20-minute effects-heavy live show in Epic Universe's Isle of Berk, where Hiccup, Toothless, Astrid, and Gobber investigate the arrival of a mysterious new dragon, blending large-scale puppetry, music, comedy, and a massive flying Toothless that soars over the audience. Unless you were there that day, because we were warned before entering that Toothless would not be flying on this day. The show was and is still worth seeing without this feature, but it is a stark reminder that the park still has a lot of issues to work out. One of the few attractions that do not have an express option, and because Hiccup's Wing Gliders was experiencing a delay, I decided to jump in line with a 40-minute wait for Dragon Racers Rally. I had never experienced this attraction, so I was looking forward to it. I like how the queue has these signs sort of describing the how-to in this attraction. It's sort of a glamorous carnival-style ride where you have an individual dragon vehicle attached to an arm with a counterweight, and it lifts you up and spins around. The goal, if you dare, is to do an inversion if you can figure out how to. So I was so focused on trying to get that done that the ride was over before I even realized it. The official listing is 3 minutes, but it felt like 45 seconds. I'm not in any rush to ride this again. It was a long wait for what appeared to be, at least appeared to me to be 45 seconds. Fortunately, I could see that Hiccup's Wind Gliders was back up and running again as I exited the Dragon Races rally. So off I went, and I just have to say this coaster has no business being this fun. Hiccup's Wind Gliders is a family-friendly launch coaster where guests board one of Hiccup's wooden flying contraptions and soar over the Isle of Berk. Encountering Hiccup and Toothless along the way, it's smooth, scenic, and designed to feel like your first step toward becoming a real dragon rider. After that last trip, I had learned that I like meat, so I did make my way into Banquet Hall to get one, and I just leisurely walked around the aisle and took a lot of pictures and enjoyed my meat. Stardust Racers was something I enjoyed late afternoon. This is a great coaster. I have yet to ride it in the dark, though, so it's something I still have to do, but I have experienced both tracks at this point. Stardust Racers is a high-speed dual-launch racing coaster in Celestia Park where riders board glowing comet vehicles and race across 5,000 feet of track at speeds of up to 62 miles per hour, highlighted by the signature celestial spin inversion. The dueling factor adds so much. Rest in peace, Dueling Dragons. I have come to the conclusion that I prefer Velocicoaster, but this is a close second for coasters, and this seems to be like it just feels a really long ride. It's great. The fountains had been emptied for a period of time before I had arrived, and I was lucky that I believe I was there on the first day when they had been refilled and were up and running. So the last 15 minutes or so before the park closed, I just found a nice little spot and watched the fountains, listened to the music, and just took in the vibes and reflected on what was an epic day. When Epic Universe is up and running, it's the best theme park I have ever been to, but right now that just isn't often enough. I have faith they will continue to improve attraction reliability, and I look forward to that day when we can freely come and go as we do the other legacy parks. But despite its flaws, it was such a great day. So I did walk back to Stella Nova, stop into the Cosmos Café, and got myself a Stella cheeseburger, which is a triple beef patty, cheddar cheese, lettuce, tomato, onion, pickles, cosmic sauce on a challah bun. I very much enjoyed my stay at Stella Nova, but I hope I never eat there again. I'm going to leave it at that. After eating, I called it a night, and I do have to point out I had the best uninterrupted sleep at this hotel. I rarely have uninterrupted sleep, even in the comfort of my own home, so this was new to me. Something about the bed and bedding just really was working for me. I didn't remember this from my previous stay, so not sure if it's something changed or I was just so exhausted I just passed out. Time will tell, I suppose. Next morning, I woke up, took my time packing, and gotten ready to go. I waited until it was about checkup time, which is 11 a.m., before rolling my stuff down to Bell Services. Had them hold my bags. I didn't have a lot of time, but I took a brief trip back to the Legacy Parks for some last-minute shopping and a quick ride on MIB, where I scored 546,675. I also took in ET, which it was great to see Botanica was back in the queue. But soon thereafter, I made my way back to get my bags and get an Uber back to MCO, where my flight was not only on time, but I landed early as well. It was a great flight, a great time, and that will be my last hurrah until Horror Nights returns. That is going to do it for this week's episode of the UOFanatic Podcast. So let me ask you, when is your next trip to Universal Orlando? I'd love to know. Please comment on Twitter to UOFanaticPod or leave a comment to UOFanatic on YouTube. While we're on the topic, please like and subscribe on your podcast platform of choice. I would also really appreciate it if you spread the word about the show or share an episode on social media. I really would appreciate your support. Speaking of support, if you'd like to support the show, please consider allowing me to assist you and book your Universal vacations. I am an authorized Universal Orlando Resort specialist with decades of experience at touring the Universal Orlando Resort. Remember, my service costs nothing to you. Absolutely free. I am paid for by Universal Destinations. Find out more at UOFanatic.com, where you can fill out a short form on the right sidebar to let me know how to get in touch with you about your Universal Orlando vacation. Thanks for listening. We'll see you next time.
Guess that wraps things up. You guys did all right. But don't give up your day.